Hey, you want to come over and do some man stuff at my house? Work on some decks, handle some wood.
Greetings, gamers, and welcome to episode 15 in the Player Profile series. In this installment, we are joined by Dark and Darker community legend, WilsonsGame. Wilson arrived on the scene all the way back in December of 2022 when he dropped a longsword 4v1 video during Playtest 3. This sparked an entire portfolio of Dark and Darker content on his channel, which consists of over 100 videos at the time of this recording. Wilson has carved out a niche for his comprehensive combat commentary, storytelling, and is known for his unfiltered yet cozy live streams. Recently, Wilson teamed up with fellow community staples, Ryan 6 Days a Week and Seriously Soapy, to launch the Gathering Hall podcast, which is a must-listen for fans of the game. Now, Wilson may have sparked just a little bit of controversy with his coverage on cheating in the game, and although we delve into the Demos situation quite a bit in this episode, it is not my goal to pick sides here. In fact, I didn't even want to capitalize on any of the drama. I delayed releasing this video in the hopes that the fires would die down a bit. So by the time you're watching this, it should have been at least 2 weeks since the great debate began. But regardless of the controversy, Wilson stands out as one of the genuine voices in the community, and it was an honor to have him on the program. I hope you guys enjoy it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are live for episode 15 of the Player Profile series. Today, we are joined by WilsonsGame, the third member of the Gathering Hall trifecta, the final interview that I need to complete that quest. I talked with Ryan, I think around, I should know this, episode 6 or 7 on Player Profiles, and then Soapy was 13. And finally, after a year, fun fact, Wilson, you may not have scrolled all the way back to the beginning of our chat. The very first message I ever sent you was on August 10th, 2023. So it's 1 year and 1 day since the very first message we traded on there. And since we have only traded messages on Discord, we have never actually been on the same call or the same podcast ever. It's the first time tonight.
I honestly find that crazy.
It is absolutely wild because we share so many common gaming friends and content creator friends. And we've been like, I mean, I've been in your stream, you've been in the HTL chat and in Player Profile chats before. And it feels like we've been so interactive that this doesn't feel like a first time chat to me at all. It's kind of weird.
No, not at all. It is weird in a way because like when I joined this call, it's just like it feels so familiar because like you said, I've been watching so much of your stuff and listening to your all the podcast episodes and whatnot. And I will say you should invite my brother Glocktain on sometime.
Yes,
more than happily. Yeah, we got the mustache brothers going, but. No, this is cool. This is very cool. Thanks for having me. Yeah, Glocktain. A lot of people say I look a lot like Glocktain, which is kind of funny.
Well, and I forgot that you guys both like recently meshed your facial hair profile to be identical. So well done.
Yeah, and I mean, my father was a milkman. He did travel to the States. Anything's possible. You know? Anything is possible. That's all I'll say. But no, thanks for having me. It's very cool.
Dude, I'm so glad you're here. There's really nothing going on in the world of Dark and Darker, and you've certainly had a very boring week. For those of you playing along at home, today is currently August 11th, 2024. And believe it or not, Wilson and I have been trying to schedule this player profile for like the last at least 2 months. And we had agreed upon this date well before any of the recent drama began. And we were kicking around the idea of whether or not we should postpone, but we decided to go ahead and record this live, but then release it at a later time. So right now, The YouTubes are recording this as an unlisted video, and by the time you good people are watching it, it could be a few days, it could be a week or two. But I didn't want anyone to get the perception, number one, that I was just doing it for clicks or for views or for
You cloud
subs.
chaser.
I know.
Yeah.
And
Oh, how could you?
number two, I wanted to avoid any potentially spicy interactions that might happen in the live chat. So if any of you are wondering why this player profile is different than the previous, that is the reason.
Yeah,
So
you can blame me for that.
I
That's
100% blame
pretty
Wilson
fair.
and
Yeah, and
his
crazy to think
milkman
like
father.
imagine like a year ago thinking like wonder what's gonna happen if I do a player profile with Wilson. It just happens to be after some of the craziest I think honestly, well for me personally, obviously craziest 24 to 48 hours I've ever had on the internet. But couldn't have timed it better.
It's been something,
Great
man.
timing.
And I think you know what? I usually like to kick these things off with kind of a little background, a little content creator journey. But I think we should probably
Hmm.
just peel the band-aid off, talk about the elephant in the room. Maybe you can walk us
Yeah.
through. I'll set it up a little bit and you can walk us through. Um, Less than 2 weeks ago, and tell me if I'm wrong on any part of this, you started a new series on your channel that immediately took off. Maybe one of the best series that
Hmm.
you've done in looking
Yeah.
for cheaters in Dark and Darker. And I was really, really impressed with the way that you approached it. Ken and some other people from HTL were commenting on how much they enjoyed the series. And yeah, that's going well. And then fast forward to 2 or 3 days ago,
Just
and
blow it
yeah,
all up. Yeah.
you
Just destroy
dropped
everything I've created.
you dropped
Yeah.
episode 3, and episode 3 of that series happened to be a little bit different than the others. So
Hmm.
yeah, maybe you can walk us through the timeline and
Yeah. I will say first off, like I'm a fairly impatient person. Mainly because like when it comes to like content creation and gaming and all this stuff, I don't have a lot of time for it. So I'm always rushed in a way. The Spectator series like started because like I was suspicious of like like the video I posted. I was suspicious before I started posting those videos, which is actually the reason why I started posting them because
Mhm.
I wanted more pressure to be applied to people I thought were bad actors or suspicious or whatever. So I was like, I wonder how the community will react to videos of people actually cheating in Dark and Darker because I hadn't seen anything like it. I hadn't spectated cheating a lot myself. I wanted to see if it was like a real problem in the game and what it looked like. Mainly because I was like, okay, there's obviously you got most of you probably watched the video by now, but I was like, there's some things happening in other places in this game, like large creators, and I'm like, this just doesn't make sense to me. And so I was like, I said it in the video clear as day. I wanted to figure out what it looked like and so the Spectator series was going great. I mean,
Mhm.
almost too good. Personally, personal opinion, I didn't expect it to be that easy to find them. And I mean, I'll share it here with you, but like I would say 1 in 5 lobbies. You know, if I went looking, if I spent a few hours of my evening, like when I'm normally like playing the game or making my other content, I could find a cheater almost every evening. And so I still have 3 or 4 that I have never even shown you guys that I spectated. And I was like, okay, this is a lot worse than I thought. And there's a whole bunch of other things happening in the game with Arena coming out and all this stuff. I'm just like, this is gonna be the craziest decision I've probably ever made. But let's just do this now. Let's just get this demo situation. Let's make the video. Let's get it out there. Let's get some eyes on all this stuff. I've already witnessed the community react positively to me spectating cheaters and basically calling them out, which was well, they were nobodies, right? They were just random people playing the game. They
Arco
potentially may
guy.
not even be cheating.
Mhm.
They're just other people that play Dark and Darker, not making money from it, don't have a large platform. It was fine for me to do that. Everyone was like, "This is great. Get rid of all these cheaters." Once it crosses over into like content creator versus content creator and all that stuff, there's like all these gray areas where it's like, you're doing the wrong thing. There's proper channels for this. Sure. But you could say the same thing about the people I spectated in those spectator videos. Some of those people may be trying to have a content creation career in a month, and I just wrongfully accused a bunch of suspicious activity on that spectator video. And I was like, okay, well,
Mhm.
this is it's just a weird social dynamic there, and I get the accusations are pretty wild. But I didn't want to have a platform where I was like, okay, I have an opinion, I have a strong opinion on something like this. I think more people should be talking about it. Maybe I should just share it and just see what happens. Like, honestly, if I wanted to like clout chase and like just like farm money from my YouTube channel, I just would have kept going with the Spectator series. Why would I blow my own stuff up to the point where it just like potentially destroys what I've made on something that was getting like 15 to 20K views, and I had a lot more good ones to share. Quite a few
Hmm.
more good ones to share that I knew would do well. And I was just like, well, let's just do the craziest thing I've ever done. And really, like the impatience, everything's kicking in. I have a full time job, all this other stuff happening. I'm like, let's just send it, um, and really like turn this game on its head a bit when it comes to cheating and RMTing. And I feel I apologize numerous times. I put Iron Mason in a kind of a bad spot. Like I put Iron Mason in a bad spot. I probably shouldn't, and on reflection, it was probably a mistake to do what I did. You could probably say that. I may not be saying that in 12 hours. I may not be saying that in a week. I don't think anyone else would be crazy enough to do what I did. So I was like, why not do this? I don't see why. If someone was cheating in the game and they were accused of it, I feel like so many other people would just like brush it off, prove me wrong, whatever, and then go about their content, their stream. Like it just wouldn't be a massive problem for them, I don't think.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Well,
I mean, yeah, crazy couple days.
no doubt. And there's definitely a split in the community. I've
Yeah,
seen a lot of people that tend to agree more with you, and more people that are siding with Demo on
yeah,
this as well. Um, it's been really wild to watch it play out with the, from the release of your initial video to his reaction to that, to your reaction to
hmm
his reaction, to other content creators reaction in all of this, and the
yeah,
multiple people. It's like everyone's making a react video of some in some way, shape, or form. And I think the amount of feedback, I'm trying to be Switzerland in this equation, kind of,
yeah,
and
yeah.
ride
No,
this
it's
out. But
it's it's
I think
subjective
that,
content, like you
well,
know,
it is, but
yeah,
there are enough people saying that there are certain things that do look suspicious.
hmm
But more often than not, what the main argument that I hear is it enough evidence that
yeah,
it would warrant the action you took? So I guess the $1 million
hmm
question is, and you've already hinted at this a little bit, is if knowing what you know now, if you were going to go back and do it all again, what would you do
hmm
differently?
Um, I probably would have like I do think I made some like errors with like my some lack of communication. Like I did report all this, but I don't think I gave them enough time. And
Okay.
that's like this impatience thing coming back. I think it's like been 10, I think it was like 10 or 11 days after I directly reported this to Iron Mace that, and I've had other people suggest they reported some of this stuff a long time ago.
Hmm.
And so it's like, I'm not aware how long they've been suspicious of this. I have no idea. But in reflection, I probably should have given them more time. But like when I think about that, ultimately, I'm like, how long would I have waited?
Right.
I don't
Well,
know the
look at
answer to that.
I think the best argument that you have on your side there is no skill, bro. Like the amount
Yeah.
of time that dude was able to be not only on the leaderboard, number freaking one on the leaderboard
Yeah,
with
multiple
countless
accounts. Yeah.
people. Yeah. And there weren't
Mm,
too many people that were really defending him. I would say the vast majority of the community that I at least knew, like, trusted, respected, I
mhm.
never heard a single one of them ever try to stick up for that dude, ever. It would
Yeah,
only be the occasional fanboy in his videos or in his stream, and
yeah,
his stream was so sporadic. That was the other thing. And I thought that's kind of an interesting angle here. Like, do
yeah. I
you
it
do you feel like there's any, I hate to phrase it this way, but I'm going to try to make it not sound awful, for people that only do YouTube videos where you can selectively edit all of your content and they don't put themselves out there to stream, If
Mhm.
that same person says, "Hey, I'm trying to make my living doing content creation," and they're opting
Yeah.
out of live streaming, does that like raise any red flags
Well,
for you? Do you feel weird about that at
yeah.
all?
I think I mean, if I've talked and it's like if I accuse, let's say, like Soapy of being, if I make this video about seriously Soapy with some of his insane 180s and headshots and stuff,
Mhm.
Soapy goes live the next day, doesn't give a shit, just
Yep.
does his thing. There's no suspicion of anything really, doesn't exist. Like I mean, you watch like there's other people like Radami that play Valorant and Dark and Darker. You can see him be an absolute boss on Valorant, and then watch him do it in Dark and Darker.
Mhm.
You know, so there's definitely something to be said about that part of it. It's just like no matter what I do with like any of that stuff I shared, it's going to be very very difficult for me to like prove anything. And I knew that going into this. It's like yeah, there's a lot of red flags and stuff, and there's stuff that I'm seeing that I just don't enjoy. But there's like you said, those things that are besides the content. Like in my opinion, if you want to just like clear any of this, it'd be I would think a fairly simple thing to do. But that's just my own thing, and it was a huge risk for me because like I mean I'm putting everything on the line on like on trying to bring awareness to this stuff, and it's like just getting so many opinions about whether this was a good decision or bad decision, and that's fair. I mean, I made
Mhm.
an opinion. I called somebody out about something I was suspicious about. That was my opinion that I want to share. People can
Yep.
have their opinion on my video or the decisions I made leading up to it. It doesn't hurt my feelings any. It really doesn't. I
Yep.
think overall, I want to see more people talking about it, and I admit I could have gone about it better some in some ways, but that's just like it's just the way things work on the internet. Reflection is 2020, but no, I agree with you. If live streaming, I mean, you don't. It's crazy I say this, but then No Skill was also live streaming a lot. I think in
Yeah,
there
I don't
somewhere,
know if I could be wrong, but I don't feel like it was a lot. I feel like it was very selective. I
sporadically.
tried to,
Yeah.
very sporadic.
Hmm.
I tried tuning in a few times. Once, like his name just never went away from the leaderboard. I would try to catch him on Twitch,
Yeah.
and it was so rare. And then I feel like his VODs were never available to go back and
Hmm.
rewatch. So
No, I
yeah,
think.
it didn't come as a surprise to me when all of the rumors
Mhm.
ended up being true with it.
And that one like, that dragged on for a long time, like, I've heard from other people, like, obviously, I've heard from a lot of people over the past 24 to 40 hours and a lot of just various opinions and debate and stuff going on, but, you know, that whole situation with No Skill Bro, in my opinion, went way longer than it probably should have, and this is, like, looking at this from a different a different angle and with, like, Arena coming out, and personally, when I started spectating all those people cheating, I was like, "Am I gonna be able to ever enjoy this game again?" And
Mhm.
I was finding myself answering that question with no a lot of times. And I was like, okay, so I'm making content about a game that I don't know if I can enjoy anymore. So
And just to be
how do
clear,
I
that
fix this?
enjoyment is tarnished by the idea that, 20% or more of your lobbies have a
Yeah,
cheater in them, right?
yeah. So it was like, damn. It was starting to become pretty real pretty quick that maybe I just wasn't sure where I was gonna go with this whole like dark and darker thing because it was like it was starting to give me a bad taste and I really think Um, there are a ton of improvements that Iron Mace could make about like just like taking this stuff maybe more seriously. And pretty much like, I mean, if you think about it, I could pretty much ruin my entire platform to try to make that more awareness about like taking this stuff like very seriously.
Yeah.
And I think with Arena, it's just an excuse to like buy RMT stuff and like go in if there's gear and cheat and show off your Arena rank or whatever there will be.
Yep.
It's just going to be a platform to do that even more. And all these thoughts were going through my head, and I'm spectating people, and I'm like shit, you know, like damn, am I going to even like enjoy myself trying to create content in that environment? Also, I mean, everyone knows that stream sniping is a huge issue,
It
which is
is,
why
yeah.
I stopped going live. It just wasn't fun.
Yep.
Every encounter just felt like I wasn't having a natural dark and darker experience. Some good people in the community want to just fight the streamer, sure. A lot of people want to go kill the streamer. A lot of people want to cheat and kill the streamer and get all his good gear
Yep.
for RMP purposes or for whatever. So different topic, but on that vein, I did spectate a couple of TTV lobbies. And I didn't like release any of this stuff. I talked to those people directly if I had saw strange stuff. But there was like, I would say 3 or 4 instances of clear stream sniping. But what else I found like kind of interesting, if I was like queuing around the same time of another creator, which I know was queuing like first 10 seconds of Goblin Caves on rotate, if they're in your
Mhm.
region, you're very likely to pop into their lobbies. Like it's not that difficult.
Right. Yep.
And what would happen was if I queued around the same time, I would see like the replicas of that content creators like build or whatever, or like really crazy geared guys, and they would just sit in the corner of the map because they missed the queue to fight the streamer guy. And so you have there was one where it was like 3 guys just in their spawn waiting for extracts on Goblin Caves, and they were all like you could tell 100% that they all just wanted to fight the streamer that they missed. And so then you're like, man, my game experience is being ruined because
Yep.
I didn't even queue. I didn't even queue in a streamer lobby.
Right.
I didn't. I'm in the lobby that they wanted. Like I'm in the other lobby. Like it's supposed to be free of all this shit. So it was like I was seeing so many things that it just like was like, damn, this is such a weird environment right now.
It is. So how much,
Crazy.
just to transition briefly here, and we can
Hmm.
circle back to this because I do want to kind of step through, excuse me, other parts of, like I
Yeah,
said
yeah. No,
earlier,
sure.
the
We can go back.
creator journey
Yeah.
for sure. But how much, in light of what you just said, are you looking forward to the new matchmaking, which just recently hit the test server?
Yeah. So it's basically you queue into random people, right? There's no lobby. There's no pregame lobby, from what I understand.
Correct. There's no base
Um,
camp. Right. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's extraordinary. I haven't tested it. I think I've played like one Dark and Darker game in like 2 weeks, like 2 weeks of spectating people before all this crazy shit happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I haven't tested it at all. I think it's good for the game, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of people testing it on test server. So
Yeah,
it could hit
that's fair.
live. It could hit live and be. We don't know. I don't think anyone really is like. We did this. We talked about this on our podcast a bit with Soapy and Ryan, and
Mm-hmm.
all of us were kind of like inconclusive. Like we don't know what it's going to do to the game. Like we just have to see it in action with a lot of people. One thing we did say is that when we played the game a while ago, when the player base was at 5K or 6K or 8K, and you're getting full lobbies, why does it feel like now with like the bit of a larger player base?
Yes.
Why does it feel like it's not much different?
Too
Like,
many
well,
cues, man. Too many
it's
cues.
crazy.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and that's the part I'm most curious about. So Odin jumped in. I did not try it on the test server either, only because I mean actually spent a fair amount of time on the test server, and the only reason I haven't is because I migrated to Steam and I went ahead and
okay, yeah,
uninstalled Blacksmith, and I still need to figure out where the original copy of Dark. I think I have 2 full installs of Dark and Darker because I didn't go through the
oh
proper
yes,
uninstall
hmm
process. But at any rate, Odin did get in there and he was sending me screenshots, and I know One Peg did a video on it, and it basically said it's functional, but he had some
hmm
concerns. I did ask Odin if, like, my first thought was, are we able to navigate? Can I queue? Can I start a search for a game, and then can I go shopping? Can I go to the merchants, or can I at least look
hmm
around? Like, I understand the idea. Like, there's definitely some additional complexity that they would need to solve for if they're going to allow you to queue and then visit a merchant or go to the trading posts or to the marketplace, because that could affect the, if you queue in and you're in the
hmm
the process of
buying
procuring
something.
an item or moving something
Yeah,
around, right? Like that
yeah,
could be an issue. So hopefully they can do something simple, like just say, hey, when you hit Q, everything on your character is locked. And then if you want to operate with the vendors or the marketplace, everything has to go direct to stash. And
hmm
maybe that's one way they could solve for that relatively easily. But yeah, I'm
yeah,
totally stoked for it. But so much of it is still black box. Like, I don't know if they're going to try to keep the gear score matchmaking that they
hmm
currently have. I'm hoping that
yeah,
it's almost gone, but I would still like to see 25 and under live
yeah,
on for a long
hmm
time. for the new players. But aside from that, I'm with you, man. I hate that there's at minimum, it seems like 25,000 people online, and almost every game I queue into, it takes the full 3 minutes,
Oh, drives me
and
crazy.
and I'm on US East, man. Like this is one of the
Yeah.
better servers out there,
Mhm.
if not the best. Like I would think US East and US West are the two most populated out there, with
Yeah.
Europe probably not far behind. But the fact that there's that, I mean, there's 12 queues at all times. So
Mhm.
I don't know.
Like,
I really hope the
if you
match
miss
the
if you miss the first 30 seconds of, like, Goblin Caves, even a prime time East, like, you're sitting there for 2 minutes, like, just hoping people fill your lobby, and I'm thinking, like, "This is only 30, 40 seconds into queue, it feels like. Why is
yeah,
it taking me so damn long to populate this lobby?" And impatient guy,
yeah,
I'm like, "I wanna get in there as fast as possible. I don't wanna be sitting here for 3 minutes staring at people, having people inspect me or whatever." I
right.
I will s I will say, like, it will be weird playing the game with no lobby. I I mean, I personally like the lobby. I just think it's too easy to manipulate and, like, abuse it with, like, inspect and stream sniping and all those things happening. Also, you can just say, like, racist stuff or whatever and be weirdo, but I will miss it, and I don't know what they're gonna do when it comes to, like, test dummy. The only time I ever get to test my damage is if I sprint across goblin caves and hit the dummy that's, like,
Right,
static. You know what
right.
I mean? So I
Yep.
find that's, like, weird information to just not allow the player base to experience. So are they gonna, like, give us another place to do that? Or are we just gonna be going in there guessing after we've built a perfect kit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for
I
now
find
in
that
the short
odd.
term we're guessing. I think in the long term and maybe it's not as long as I'm thinking. I've maybe just learned to kind of temper my expectations overall, because they've got a lot going on. And anytime they've said that they're working on something, I tend to hear like, oh, it'll be out within the next 3 months. And then
Mhm.
like Druid, it's 6 months after that. It's 9 months. It's 12 months later. So
Yeah.
my expectations for that my room, I'm hoping the my room, the idea of kind of like the hideout in Tarkov, I'm hoping that would be in 2024 sometime. So we might
Yeah.
have to live for 4 months without being able to test our damage. But man, if they can get to that by the end of the year, where we can all have our own room to go in and test our damage,
Mhm.
and man,
Well,
if they knock that out of the
yeah.
park, where you can set up your own kits, like if you have your own dummies where you can just go put a
Oh,
full kit
yeah.
on the dummy and
Yeah, like,
walk
have it all
around the
set up.
room. Oh,
Mhm.
there's so many good things that can come out of that.
Mhm. No,
But yeah,
I would love that, and that's just, like, the big content coming out's Arena, and, I got that's I'm assuming that's, like, 98% of the focus right now. Like,
yeah,
Arena
for
and
SDF
all
at
these
least.
matchmaking all this
Yep.
matchmaking stuff to try to, like I'm assuming, like you suggested, like, the gear score questions, skill-based matchmaking questions,
Hmm.
uh, uh, all those things are gonna be even more, like, important and substantial when it comes to Arena. Because, like,
Yes.
Arena is just like a small scale, like, PvP, in my opinion, like, more PvP focused mode. So if if there's any like concerns with how that gear score ranking is affecting gameplay, it'll have to be kind of like hammered out because it's it's absurd. Like, no one's playing HR, no one's playing HR. The insane bis items are all found in normals, which I mean, this goes back to some of the cheater stuff, but now it's a free to play game, so normals is just like potentially polluted with more cheaters than you would have
Right.
in HR. But no one's
Right.
playing HR because the cheaters aren't finding any geared players in HR because no one's there. So they're
Right.
all in normals, just like it's just like and that the gear brackets basically give them a perfect place to queue into to find the best gear.
Yep.
And it's yeah, it's not really concerning. I just like in terms of like the casual player base, sub 25, great. Um, after that point, I think the game starts to become challenging balance wise. All these other things considered, depends on like the gear has been adjusted a lot, so I think it's good. But it does concern me if we go in with the same like sort of setup for arena. I don't know how that would feel because
Yeah.
there's a large gap between like 125 and like the 400 gear score people.
Right. Yeah. I think
you
they're
know,
gonna have to like completely rework. I don't see that there's going to be a one-to-one correlation between the main game and arena in terms of the way they're going to match make people.
Mm-hmm.
with those gear score levels. And yeah, I'm with you. Like
Mm.
under 25 still feels great when I'm running around in there. I'm always trying to gauge whether or not I'm interacting with a Timmy or not, because I don't want to be the reason I'm ruining
Yeah.
some other new player's experience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also know that when you enter that mode, the chance that you're running into a cheater is probably sub 1%. There's no reason for them to
Yeah.
be in there. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
same for me up until 124 too. Like the
Yeah. Yeah.
124, you're going to run into the
Oh,
min
it's so
maxers,
nice.
but
Yeah.
the cheaters probably don't want to waste their time there either.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm doing any kind of questing or just playing around with my kid, if I'm playing around for fun, if I want to
Yeah.
go do PvP, like 124 feels really, really good. And the
Oh, it's
second
so
you step
nice.
into 125, you know that you've now opened yourself up to where the cheaters
Mm-hmm.
are, where all of the legendary, like completely juiced guys are. And yeah, I'd love to be able to step into that confidently and say, hey, I know that we're not getting ESP'd right now. But yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
right. HR, like I feel way more comfortable in HR than I do in
Mm-hmm.
norms over
Yeah.
125. Like, but I'm not always
Yeah.
going to HR just to PvP either. Like I like to do HR, go down to Inferno, do some, bossing
One
and ice
one thing I was
abyss.
like, I was kind of curious about when I started doing the spectator videos. I'm like, am I going to push cheaters into HR because potentially more people will be spectating them in normals, and will Iron Mace allow you to spectate HR again? Because
Mm,
it was removed. It was removed to like to stop some of the cheating and suspicion and even stream sniping that a lot of people were getting because the player would just go into the lobby, die, and they'd spectate for their buddy or whatever. There was like some weird stuff happening where you could only
right.
spectate for 60 seconds now,
Yep.
but I feel like it's kind of wasted now. It's like that spectate for 60 seconds, if anything, just makes it easier to hide, in my opinion, because like you can't get any you can't discern anything from 60 seconds of spectating somebody. So
Right.
and that
And
was intentional to hide so people couldn't tell their friends where other players were and stuff. But I don't think it's like I don't think it's necessary anymore. But maybe it is.
yeah, that was a really tough nut to crack for them because they were damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like on one hand, like you said, you had a bunch of people that were queuing in as solos, immediately
Yeah.
dying so that the other
Yeah.
people could give information. But now I think with the new
Cure score.
requirements that you
Yeah.
have to be, well, not only gear score, but the fact that if you're a solo, you have
Yeah.
to go into solo. You can't go
Mm-hmm.
into trios anymore. So with that change, I think they probably should consider giving the full spectate back because yeah, either you're giving full spectate privileges and opening it up to people doing that, the grief death and then pass along information. And the flip side of that is that you with full spectate can then get the evidence you would need to prove someone is cheating.
Mm-hmm.
So now that
Yeah.
they
I'm
have the
actually
requirement.
I'm super curious because like when I watched like the little bit of the Q&A with that Jay did with STF, which I included in my first spectate video, where he suggested they could work on a system that like allows people to spectate and catch cheaters,
Mhm.
which prompted some of the stuff that I was doing. It had me really interested, and I wonder like, I mean, obviously now I put a bit of pressure on, but I wonder if they're like, well, maybe they weren't super concerned about it. Potentially now they're like, all right, maybe we need to speed this process up a little. We need more people working on our behalf to find these people with good evidence, and let's make that a possibility for people that enjoy this game. Like people
Mhm.
that actually want to improve Dark and Darker and make the game a better environment for everybody. Let's give them the opportunity to do that. And it wasn't really discussed until like really recently with that J Q&A with I think it was a couple weeks ago. Uh, but if I did anything, I put a lot more pressure on allowing that or them maybe pursuing that
Mhm.
because as I've learned, it's incredibly difficult to convince people or provide evidence that suggests like people are actually like 100% locked in. Like this guy is and I think they're probably struggling with that too.
Yep.
I don't know if like what their systems are or how they observe this stuff or what they take in. I have no clue, but I feel like it's probably a struggle if it went on that long with other bad apples in the past. Like we had ditch situation, we had I learned about coop situation and like no skill bruv situation, and I've heard from like really reputable like people with good reputations in the community suggest those people were reported for a long time with no action.
Yep.
And it sucks. And like I know like a lot of people, like I said, I made the mistake of not giving them maybe enough time to sort some stuff out before I dropped that video. And but like I didn't really have a lot of confidence that it was gonna be anytime soon. I was super impatient with it, rushed it. Yeah, whatever. Make any argument you want. I probably did make a ton of mistakes, but I do think that needs to be considered like way more. Like, give us more tools to catch these guys. Let us help you.
Yes.
I will do it. I will do it. I don't mind. I don't like. Obviously, I will literally potentially destroy reputation to try to put pressure on some of these guys. like,
Yeah.
uh, you know,
Well,
uh,
I don't think you're the only one
you know,
either. I think you would see a lot of hands go up in the air within the community of a lot of people that are passionate about the game, care about the game, want to see it survive for a long time. I think you would get a lot of work for free. You would get
yeah.
just with minor incentives. Like I think you threw
Hmm.
out blue shards or something
Yeah,
like
Jay
that.
did.
It's
Yeah,
like
it's kind of funny. Hmm.
it would only take
I
something
wouldn't even
like
need
that
that. Yeah.
or a badge or a new torch or something like that for
Hmm.
hours. I mean, you could get hours and hours of volunteer work from this community if you gave them a pure, like trusted people, a pure spectator mode and say, all right,
Yeah.
you're doing 2 or 3 hours a week of
And
this
do you know what
queue of
happens?
people that have been
Like when you do
reported.
that? Do you know what happens when you do that? Every cheater in the game would start changing their behavior to try to avoid being spectated by one of these. Like, because right now, like as far as I'm concerned, no one's doing what I was doing. Like not a single person was going into games trying to find cheaters via spectate. Imagine if you had a, like let's say even
Right.
just hundreds of people potentially doing that. Imagine if you're like I'm just picturing myself being a cheater, and someone actually mentioned to me there may actually be cheats that show when someone's spectating, which
Oh, geez.
I hadn't really thought of this yet, but I was gonna work on this more until I dropped the bombshell. But there were maybe few situations where I thought like, did this guy change his behavior because I'm spectating him? Like, why was the weird stuff happening before and now it's not? And he's kind of acting a little weird. I really want to dig into that more. I just never got the time to. But just imagine the pressure you'd feel as a cheater with that many people out there spectating.
Yeah.
Like, could potentially catch some of the guy that I accused or whatever. Um, that could have been caught by someone in the community, average Joe, casual gamer that loves the game, and there wouldn't need to be all this crazy shit going on. But
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
have the
This is
tools
one
to
of
do
those.
that. You know?
Yeah, we need AI to come in and solve this problem fast. Like there has been talk for at least a year, probably closer to 2 years now, about that AnyBrain. There was another name, is like Project Waldo or something like that at one point, but I'm pretty sure it's AnyBrain that has the AI anti cheat, where it basically it's behavior based. It's not software that's installed on your machine. It's not like the kernel level stuff that League of Legends uses. It's AI driven software that actually monitors player behavior and creates a digital fingerprint of that person,
Hmm.
so that if they create a new account, it doesn't matter. They switch computers, they switch MAC addresses, IP
Oh
addresses.
wow.
It doesn't matter how many copies of the game they buy, just their behavior, their fingerprint as a gamer is recorded by the AI and is like it was supposed to be, when I was reading about this, like I said, over a year ago, it was supposed to have an accuracy level that was like through the roof. We're talking like 98% accurate.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
where is it? Like how
Yeah.
close are we now to getting something like
Hmm.
that? Because that could just change everything overnight. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I have nothing to hide. Like, you know, let the AI spectate my stuff. They won't find anything weird. Trust,
Yeah.
guaranteed. So,
Yep.
no, it only helps. But
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully they I mean, if anything, I mean, the pressure's on now to kind of sort it out within the community. Uh, whether people agree with my opinions in my video or not, um, you know, I applied a lot of pressure. Let's put it that way, and it wasn't
Yeah.
super intentional. But I was like, you know, if I'm gonna do this, let's just do it and ride it out. And and just see where the cards land and where everything plays out at the end. And if it means I'm done with content and people just chase me right out of the dark community, so be it. It's not a clout thing. Not even close. It's so funny.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
don't get
funny
the
the
sense
opinions
that's
I
going to
see.
happen at this point.
It's
Could be wrong.
hilarious. It's hilarious what I've seen, but also like quite concerning for Dark and Darker as in a way. Because there's been a lot of stuff that's come out in the past like 24 to 40 hours that like I've never watched before, like opinions that I've never heard people share. There's been like people like either defending me or attacking me, whatever it is. It's the conversation is like really like, damn, should they be doing a better job at catching these guys?
Mhm.
And that's okay, I guess. That's just result of all this crazy shit. So
Yeah. Well, you're right that
it is
now
what it
is the
is.
time before this game gets any bigger and better. Now is the
Hmm.
time to really figure that out
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, like I'm convinced there's like, and this is like, I mean, conspiracy theorists and whatever sitting in the trailer, like I'm convinced there's a much larger issue with RMT and Darker and Darker. Now that I've like started to really have a long think about this for over the past 2 or 3 weeks, and like some of like the like why so many cheating, like why so many cheaters, why is it such a popular thing to do? And if you look, like I don't know if you have, but I took a quick glance at like RMT websites, right, and the amount of items that are available on them. Like
Mm.
that, we're talking thousands of things you could buy with real world. You could have someone level your account from level 1 to 20. It's about $1 a level. $20 takes you a couple hours.
What?
Um.
Jeez.
Okay, now this I only looked quickly and I didn't go through any other artifact weapons, but the cheapest famine I quickly just filtered lowest priced famine. Guess how much it would run you?
In USD, $25.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know how to convert this to American, but let's say about $250 US for the lowest price. There's like 6 or 7 of them for the lowest price famine.
What?
Now, I, I was shocked. I didn't really dig any more, but I was like looking at the price of gold and all these things, and like there's not a money. There's a lot of money. If someone's pulling
Holy
like
cow.
if someone's pulling or even like legend, like for example, like there was some purple gear just like randomly filtering like through purple gear. You could buy like purple gloves. It was like $5 for a pair of unique or purple rawhides. You know,
What?
like so these things are all there. They're listed. I'm not sure how much of them are being purchased or but they're there and there's a lot of listings. And I only looked at like there's 2 sites and I said quickly, I quickly glanced through this stuff and I was like, holy shit. Like, you know what I mean? That's a lot of real world money. We're talking potentially being pulled, from this game, and this is what
For
brings
a
me back
full
around.
loot
Like,
game, that just blows my mind. Like,
yeah,
I could
yeah, it surprised me.
understand. I could at least rationalize. I could see someone out there getting into World of Warcraft, EverQuest, like name any MMO of all
Hmm.
time where you're paying for an
You get
item
it.
that's going to
Yeah,
be yours whether you die or
yeah,
not. And it's going to last you for maybe as long as your character's alive, for as long as the season goes. Like, I can at least see that. But when this stuff can be gone in an instant,
yeah.
within 3 minutes of you buying it
Hmm.
because some other cheater is going to come take his money right back and resell it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you might win a few arena games and like get
holy
top leaderboard
cow.
or something. So how much would you charge if for like, okay, let's suggest like this is the one I've seen. Yeah. How much would you pay to have someone kill Frost Wyvern for you? I'm assuming it's for the quest. It was on there as like something you could pay for. What would like that be dollar value to you? Like $5 or $10?
Um, I don't know. I could see that going as high as $20.
Oh yeah, it was like $50 Canadian, so like $30, $40. For someone to
Jeez.
go kill Frost Wyvern. I'm assuming it's for like the quest, maybe for cosmetics or something. I don't know if that's the quest line or not.
I can't remember which one that
No,
is.
but
Is there
anyway,
an
it
emote in that?
exists.
Maybe
It
it's one
exists
after.
more than like the whole RMT thing exists out there more than I realized. Like I said, I have this is all just pure speculation, tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorist. But like the fact that that many items are listed and there's that amount of like options for people, there's obviously stuff being bought. So this is when I go back to like agreeing with some of the other people I get along with, like Soapy and Ryan. And Soapy mostly will say this, but like just remove trade and see what happens. Like, well, let's just
Yeah.
try it, you know? And I think there's other people in the community that have like just like concerns about Arena and what it will do with this whole situation as well. Because
Yeah.
it just like it just cranks it up a notch. And when I started thinking hard about that, I was like, oh yeah, this is potentially more damning than I thought. And I like
Yeah.
look my over the past like take this with a grain of salt. In 2 weeks' time, I could be like jumping around skipping like singing songs and like the most positive guy in the world, but at this moment over the past what I've seen and witnessed, I'm having kind of like a reflection of my past week and a half and what I've my eyes have kind of been open to within this game. I'm a little bit in like the negative side of things. I will say I'm really like normally super positive guy, but everything with Dark and Darker just love the game. It's only the past couple weeks where I've been like, all right, let's really deal with this stuff. Like, let's
See
get
how
it out
deep the
there.
rabbit hole goes. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just open it up, crack it open, and have people talk about it. And yeah, I think overall, uh, overall, I think it'd be better for the game. Obviously, I made some mistakes, would do things differently, but overall, I think the past week has been. I hope, like, I really hope, sincerely hope that anything I've done over the past week or two has been would improve the experience for casual gamers or for whatever, and improve Dark and Darker, whether it be
Mm.
Iron making decisions based on pressures applied or things that have happened, whatever. I just hope it makes improvements in the game. The last thing I want to do is try to like ruin or hurt people's reputations or whatever without the end goal. Like I wanted the end goal to be, will this improve Dark and Darker? And I guess we'll see. A week from now, things could play out. I don't know how they're going to play out. 2 weeks from now, it could be a different story. Months from now, who knows? I think
Yeah.
I probably will like take a step back for a while and just like take vacation. I can see in the corner like I'm getting messages about my Discord and my mods like sending me stuff. So
Mm.
uh, who knows?
Yeah.
The nothing malicious going on in there, but it's certainly been crazy.
No
Certainly been
doubt.
crazy.
Well, let's pivot a little bit and take a quick trip down memory lane to
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
figure out how we got here. I think I remember at one point in time hearing you say that you started the content creation journey actually about 10 years ago with
Yeah.
was it
Yeah.
Battlefield or Battlefront?
Battlefront on the Xbox, like the old like the or Xbox One, it was console gamer. And
Okay.
then Battlefield 1, like the World War 1 Battlefield. Did a lot of that. Even FIFA, played a lot of FIFA,
Oh,
but
right on.
it was yeah, 20 well, it wasn't 10 years ago. It was like 2015, 2016.
Okay.
So that was like
Gotcha.
that was my first live stream. And it was yeah, I was in university at the time. I had good internet. I don't have good internet when I was living on the farm. So, 1 megabyte download and point 0.7 upload is just not going to get you
Ooh.
there.
Nope.
So when I went to school, I had a wicked internet and it was like dream come true. I could play all the games I wanted online. But my first live stream was like during exam weeks, and I just like grinded out a bunch of streams and was just like full addicted to it, even with only 2 or 3 people. But the second like that school year was over, I was back on the farm. So like that
Mm.
all ended the second I went home. So like my summers were spent like pretty much off the internet, console gaming, playing like story driven games and solo content. And yeah, so like it's weird because when we first got that, it was like 1.5 megabytes download. We first got that, I want to say like '08 or '09. Uh, I was in like middle school at the time, and I could play Call of Duty, World at War Online, and Halo 3 with my friends. And that just like man, online gaming, PvP, all that stuff was just like
Yep.
blow my mind. I was playing dial up playing old school RuneScape for like years, you know, and then all of a sudden we're like live online gaming was crazy. So it
Yep.
was crazy transition because I'd get a taste of it and then go back and work on the farm, you know, and get a taste of it and then go back and work on the farm. So yeah, that was 2016, and then 20, I think it was around 2019. I was done. Well, I was done school for a while, but you know, got my own house, got fiber optic internet, streamed and got affiliate for 3 months, pretty hard, and then just like, you know, how it happens with content and Twitch and all that stuff, just not enough time, working 12-hour shifts, doing
Hmm.
landscaping, coming home and like putting in the hours for content was just like becoming difficult. So, but it was
So
still fun, and that was a pretty good time. But
is
got away
Dark and
from it.
Darker your first extraction full loot game,
Mm,
or were you
I
into
played a
Tarkov or
fair bit.
anything?
I played a fair bit of Tarkov, but
Okay.
I feel like Tarkov was really hard on casual players. I feel like that experience was pretty rough. If you're just like a guy trying to put in an hour, like one raid, 45 minutes, you know, like you sometimes the queues were like 30
Oh,
minutes.
there. Yeah,
Like,
I've
yeah,
waited 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get in a
yeah.
raid before. Yeah.
I loved that feeling of Tarkov though. There's nothing else quite like it. I try to convince so many of my friends I used to game with online that like they should be doing this, but I was solo, just for many hours. Edge of Darkness edition. God damn it.
Jeez, man,
You
they
know what I
did get
mean?
you. Wow,
They
you
got me
went
hooked.
all
Yeah,
in.
I
Wow.
loved it. I really did. But it was really difficult to just like put that game down and then pick it up, play it. Put that game.
No
It
doubt.
became something you really had to commit to. So
Yep.
um, I went back to doing like other gaming stuff for a while, and but I was addicted to that feeling. I think Dark and Darker captures a lot of that too, where it's just like full loop PvP. That it's all on the line. You know, this moment could make your day or ruin it, and there's just
Yeah.
nothing quite like it.
So you
So it's
mentioned
good.
RuneScape back in the old school days.
Mhm.
Do you have a special place in your heart for the fantasy genre
Oh, yeah.
because you played
Yes.
RuneScape, or are there
Yeah.
other movies or influences for
Oh,
the
man.
D&D archetypes?
I strangely enough, not a big, like, D&D guy, but huge, like, fantasy guy,
Hmm.
like, you know, Ocarina of Time was, like, my first game that I, like,
Good
you
game.
know, we rented a copy of Ocarina of Time. I was very young at the time, so I did a lot of just watching Ocarina of Time. We rented it. I remember we rented it, and we had, like, one of those TVs you push the button in their back room, like the old farmhouse. It was, like, this tiny little television about yay big, and you'd push the button in to turn it on, turn it off.
Yep.
Anyway, Ocarina of Time. What a journey, man. And then Majora's Mask, being like old enough to just enjoy the fantasy world, and Twilight Princess was like I bought, you know, first thing I should say is like being in like a farming family when you have like three brothers that are all like pretty invested in farming and like, you know, macho man stuff, hunting, fishing, all those things. And being the one kid that's like, fuck, I need to buy a GameCube. I want to play Twilight Princess. You know, I- like I was saving all my money to buy video games and like being like kind
Well,
of shunned for it. You know,
well,
like
the
it
title of
was
that game
very frowned
doesn't do
upon.
you any favors when it's called
Yeah,
Twilight
exactly.
Princess. That doesn't really
Yeah,
help you a lot.
no. So like I've always been a fan of like that type of driven stuff, and it just like the nostalgia hits so hard with those games. And '07 Scape was just a huge like just so many good memories. Skyrim, Oblivion
Oh,
on Xbox
Skyrim, man.
360.
Yeah.
Oblivion was just so mind blowing, and then Skyrim was like just incredible. But on the fantasy genre, like I'm a huge when I was like in the farm, like the downtimes like January, February. So I do a ton of reading. And I actually was a big time like fantasy novel a guy and fantasy books like Wheel of Time, The
Mhm.
Malazan. I've kind of dabbled in a few other series, but all through high school and even in university, I read a lot of fantasy books. Like everything I can get my hands on that just like Lord of the Rings and all that stuff, like that escape from this world is
Yeah.
just so enticing to me. And the settings are just so awesome. So Dark and Darker is like dream come true when it comes to Halo 3, Call of Duty, all that stuff, like online PvP, crazy intense stuff, and then smash it into a fantasy setting, and you get just like everything I love about gaming. So it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
damn, this shit has me hooked. Yeah,
Did you ever get
crazy.
into the Forgotten Realms books by any
Uh
chance with
is that
what
Brandon Sanderson?
There were a bunch of different authors that contributed to. I think the main guy. Shoot, I just blanked. The
I don't
no,
know if I
I'm
have. I
losing
don't
it.
know if I
The
have
guy
either.
that wrote like the Dark Elf trilogy. So the main character,
Oh, okay.
they've done a ton. They've
Yeah.
done games on Drist Duorden, the Dark Elf,
Oh, okay.
duelist who had the dual scimitars, and he was
Mhm.
the Dark Elf outcast with the heart of gold, right? Because all the Dark Elves are
Mhm.
pretty much like either chaotic or neutral or lawful evil in alignment terms. And Driss was like, I don't even know, maybe lawful good. He was like on this
Mhm.
whole different plane. And the guy that wrote those books, why can I not think of his name? It's going to drive me
It's
nuts.
okay. I don't think I've
But
read them. It's just go ahead.
yeah, they were fantastic, and I started my D&D nerdery when I was like a junior in high school, and when I found
Oh,
out
man.
that there were actually halfway decent authors that were writing books using they really
Oh,
tried to
that'd be
use a
good.
lot of the D&D not only themes and settings, but they would try to incorporate a lot of the mobs, monsters, and
Mhm.
lore, and even mechanics like the spell systems, the way that they worked. They would try to
Damn,
throw some of
okay.
that into the books. So I
Mhm.
was really, really, really geeked out on that kind of stuff. But
For a
I'm
long
with you
like, from
100%.
early.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. It's
pretty early.
like, just imagine being like a kid growing up on, like, not a hugely successful farm, but we all put in a lot of hours on it on my family farm, all my brothers did, and then they like, almost the perfect game to capture your, like, entire imagination, like, Ocarina of Time of, like, a farm kid, like some kid, it's
Yeah,
all those tropes that hit so hard, well, hit me super hard because it's like, damn, I'm like that outcast farm kid that my 3 brothers were doing their thing, like, I was so invested in the story and just like just the nostalgia of it all now looking back is so impressive. And Dark and Darker, I'm so glad there's a reason why I love this game, basically. Yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot of good reasons there. And oh man, I mean, oh 07 Scape, I'm a huge fan of fishing. And I heard that there's fishing in the
Yeah,
mobile version of
there
Dad.
is.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, bring it on. I want my angler outfit, go to the fishing hole in Dark and Darker with my full luck set, catching like random items in the water. I'm
It's
so sold
coming,
on that.
man. It is
Mm-hmm.
confirmed, and it might be coming sooner than we think. I feel like that's something that's actually maybe not being fast tracked, but it's not. I don't feel like
Yeah.
it's buried really deep in the
Mm-hmm.
backlog. I feel like it's kind of inching up
Mm-hmm. We just need like some
towards the top.
crazy accusatory like hacker thing to come out, but the agenda behind it all is like phishing. And then that'll push it to the top of the list. Like
The
we need to
best fishing
address
poles
this.
are going to be RMT'd. The best
Yeah.
lures.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm
People are
excited.
going to have
It's
night crawler shops in the RMT
oh,
store.
that stuff gets me so excited, like beyond belief, because it's just like I said, like gaming was always like an escape from like I wouldn't call it drudgery, but it's kind of a poor word for like farming and doing all that stuff. But when you're not really exposed to like social aspect of my life was pretty much like us on a farm, no one anywhere's near us. Like,
Mm.
we'd seen our family, we'd go to town once in a while, like very rarely. So if you're put in that situation and then like your outlet is a video game, so I was it was so crazy to think back on that time and realize how much it impacted like my life. And it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like just because we rented that game that one time and I was so locked into Ocarina of Time and that whole thing and there's a reason why it kind of drove me here and now
Yep.
I've created
That
an
is
absolute
wild, man.
firestorm.
I,
Yeah.
I feel you though. I started gaming when I was 3.5 years old. My dad bought an Atari 2600. So that was
Oh damn, yeah.
1980 or 81 when I
Mhm.
first started gaming. And I beat my dad's buddy in Pong. And
Oh,
he
nice.
was so pissed. Like, I don't think my dad could have been any prouder of me at that moment. Like 3.5 years old, I beat some
Mhm.
28-year-old dude because nobody knew anything about like video games
Yeah.
were not even close to being mainstream, obviously, when
Yeah.
the 2600 came out. And they like for the next 12 years of my life, more often than not, you got made fun of for playing video games. Like it was a completely different time
It's
back then, you know?
That's crazy
Like
because like
it,
that's kind of how I felt, but the only reason why because like lived my life with the farming and stuff, but that's exactly how I felt with like growing up with like in my situation, but in the early 2000s and late 90s or whatever, and you experienced the same thing when you were growing up in a
yeah,
different era, which is kind of crazy.
yeah,
It's
it was
wild.
bizarre. And it like there were only a few circles that you could run in where it was accepted to be a nerd. But if you ever
Yeah,
got any of your friends from other circles, if they ever came over to hang out, they would be like,
yeah.
oh shoot, like when the Nintendo came out, the very first Nintendo, when it went from
Oh
Atari
damn.
to Nintendo, it was
Mm-hmm.
like Contra was the bee's knees, man. If you showed someone that game, it didn't matter what circle of friends they came from, they freaked the hell out, and
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to do was come over and play Contra. And yeah, but it still did take years because I was kind of sports ball guy. So I was, playing soccer and playing a bunch of other
Mm-hmm.
sports. And like I could never go talk to any of those bros about gaming. Like that was just a no go, man. Like if you're running
Mm-hmm.
in the sports circles, you do not talk to
Yeah.
those guys about video games. You talk to them
It was
about girls and weightlifting, and that's about it.
Yeah, not the Atari and all that stuff in Nintendo, the original Nintendo. It was a little better. Like my situation, a little better with my family. It felt like similar to that, but like I still don't tell anyone about what I do. Like my wife hardly even knows what I get up to when it comes to
Oh, for the
content creation.
content creation, yeah,
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 no, like no one even really like. It's just awkward like to try to explain it because like my family has no clue what any of these things even mean, like Twitch and all this stuff, live streaming. Completely
right.
strange. Honestly, like there's part of me that like there's a lot of times where I'm just hiding because it's kind of embarrassing sometimes when you're like talking to all these farm people and like macho men people, same as yourself. It's like, I mean, we're talking about growing corn and all this shit, and it's like I can't really talk about Dark and Darker with that guy.
No, no,
You know what I mean?
not at
It's
all.
just not gonna. It's gonna. I'm gonna be like, look like a weirdo. So,
Yep.
uh, anyway, that's still kind of my life sometimes. But I can during this situation, like with the past 2 or 3 days, it's been a good thing, I think, in my opinion, that I'm just like dealing with all this shit and knowing I can just deal with it and then step out. And I have a family. I have all these people
Right.
that, you know, none of this
Allows you
stuff
to
really,
keep
yeah,
perspective.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
like
is
I
good.
keep a real good perspective of like, all right, like this is what I'm doing all this, like living my life for, not for this online, like nonsense. So it does like keep me kind of grounded that way where just there's a part of me that like I love what I'm doing here and like I love it, but at the same time I can always just be like, you know what? Who cares? Let's just do this. Let's send it. Let's have an opinion. Let's make the content. Let's do the thing. Uh, uh I got other people that will still like support my life without, needing online the online community to love me. Like it's just
Yeah.
so it's been actually very helpful. I thought it'd be like kind of a turn because they wouldn't have people to bounce some stuff off or whatever. But it's actually been like, hey, you know what? Let's just set. I'm just gonna put everything down for 6 hours and go do family stuff for the day. Like
Yep.
it's so good and like they're completely unaware of what's what's going on. And it's like, damn, it'd be pretty crazy. I imagine if you had like your wife that was like fully invested in like your stuff or like your family, and then something like this happened and like the stress around the household would be kind of crazy.
Yes, it would.
Because, like,
No
I
doubt.
I I mean, I'm just gonna say it, like, there's been some crazy amounts of, like, harassment and stuff and, like, just weird shit, but I can literally just, like, pull the plug and walk away. Like, it's not that deep, really, it's just like, "Okay, I think this is important, let's do it." So,
Yeah,
yeah, so it's kinda cool, but I don't think too many other content creators have that luxury, so
that's true.
um, it's obviously, it's a tough situation to be in where it's like you have a platform and I obviously respect a lot of content creators in Dark and Darker and across every game. I've been watching Twitch for a long time, watching content for a long time, but I always thought it'd be weird to have a platform and not be able to like just do what you want with it. Like if you're actually like confident in something, uh, you should be allowed to do it and like share your opinion, go through the whole ups and downs. So be it. It is what
Yeah.
it is at this point. So crazy
Amen.
journey. Crazy journey.
Indeed.
Crazy.
We've already been going
Oh.
for an hour, man. I don't want to keep you too long here, but I do want to talk to you about what you're excited for in the not too distant future with the game. We talked about Arena already, obviously.
Yeah.
We mentioned the My Room feature, which will obviously be a cool thing when it arrives, but I wouldn't really describe that as a huge game changer. I think the biggest upcoming content pieces are, aside from Arena, are going to be the addition of Sorcerer and then
Yeah.
the
That's gonna be cool.
water map, which they've alluded to potentially coming this year. And it sounds like that's going to be coming even ahead of a Ruins rework, which was kind of surprising.
Oh.
But
Ma-
yeah, how do you
Okay.
feel? I know that you typically don't play Magic, guys. You're more of the sword and board.
Fighter bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fighter bro.
Are you excited at all for the sorcerer? You going to give him a shot?
I think I think like the wizard. I think the wizard, like I've never really played wizard, but I think like wiz and sorcerer, like if they, I feel like both those classes are gonna be like wizard's probably gonna change because of sorcerer. So I think
Yeah,
overall
it
it'll be
has
like
to.
really cool, really cool for wizard players. And Stork just sounds like super badass. Just like the whole like idea of sorcerer in the game, like uh, when you like we look at D&D stuff and all that, they're just they're just cool. Like they're just really cool. Kind of like a gunslinger magic guy. Like why
Yeah.
not? I don't know if I'll get to play them or not, or like play them a bunch. But one thing I just want to mention about ruins, like I mentioned this we had a laugh with this on our broadcast, but when I hear them say water map, do you know what my first thought is? Like, why don't they just recreate ruins so it's like it's the water map and the thing that's like, how they like the goblin caves crumbles around you, like the locust swarm,
Mhm.
whatever. What if ruins is just like the water levels rising? You get all those platforms and stuff, and like the
Yeah.
towers, and it's like you're on the last little
Dude,
island fighting the
that's
guy.
actually that's a pretty damn good idea.
It would be
Um,
so cool. It'd be so
yeah.
cool, and like the pressure that would apply, and that they said they might add like a swimming mechanic, and there could be a
Yep.
fishing hole. But I just know Ruins has like that water level at the bottom. And it's like you're splashing around in the pond when you go to the gold ore and stuff,
Yep.
and it's like imagine the water level like 10 feet higher,
Yeah.
and like there's a cave system, there's a well, all those things. I mean,
I
come
think
on, Iron Mace.
that could work, man. You're onto
And
something
like
there.
you see it and you're like, "Oh shit, the water's getting to that next spot, like, I need to get to the bridge or get the hell out of here." And if you're on that main bridge, you're fighting a few people and there's water around you, it'd be so cool. Then they
It
got
would be.
sharks, penguins, all that stuff.
I'm excited for
Send
the
it.
Druid Penguin. My kid is super amped for that. That was one of
The
the few
penguin.
times he's been disappointed is when they first released Druid and Penguin was not amongst the forms that you could play.
Mhm.
He was so stoked, like for the idea that he could belly flop in the ice caverns
Mhm.
as a penguin and just like slide across the ice. He was
Yeah.
so geeked for that proposition, but hopefully that's coming soon. I think that was
Yeah.
another thing, unless I'm mistaken, that it is on the
Yeah.
pretty immediate radar
I
of
feel
Iron Mace
like
to get the other shape shifting forms up there
if they're talking water map, it has to like coincide with penguin. It's like you don't give us a water map and then
and
keep
turtle
penguin out of the game, you know?
and the
Yeah,
turtle.
turtle as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
all these creatures that thrive in the water get a drop when the water map comes out. So now I'm excited for
Druid's
that
gonna be
stuff.
loving that. Well, the
Like
tree
my
ants
big
get
thing.
bonuses underwater too, right? I'm pretty sure I
Yes,
read
and
that. Yeah,
there's like nowhere to really like make use of that. So it's got to
yeah,
happen. But like circling back to like originally like arena was like the big thing that I was like, "Oh, I'm so excited for arena because it could be like this place to just like have a blast, like showcase some of your skill, and however they do it with gear and whatever, it could be like an amazing place to play Dark and Darker. And however they connect it to the game, we're still not quite sure. But I was super stoked, and I have been since they first announced Arena. Like one of my first Dark and Darker videos a way long ago was when like solo didn't exist, and there's an interview with Terrence, and they're like everyone was bombarding him with questions about solo or other PvP modes. I think in Q and I think he did like a chat in Discord, like a Q&A, and he
hmm
said we're looking at other PvP modes like tournaments, and this was like well probably almost a year ago or something, or more than a year ago, a year and a half ago, or whatever it would be. it's like before playtest 4, I think, like right after playtest 3, which didn't have solo in it yet. So playtest 4, I think, was solo
That
included with
sounds
Goblin
right.
Caves. Yeah,
Yes.
so this
Yeah.
would have been right after, immediately after playtest 3. They mentioned they wanted to include other PvP modes like tournaments, and
Mm.
I was like so stoked because I have played like Mountain Blade Bannerlord and the tournament system in there with like spectate and wagering, and every
Yeah.
fight is a little different. Like you have like some fights you're like a spear guy, some fights you're like a sword guy, sometimes you're on a horse. I was
Yep.
like, damn, tournaments would be so cool. And that was like a year and a half ago. So I've been excited for Arena for like a long time, or something of that sort for a long time. Just something like I just think it'd be really cool to try out, and it really needs to be implemented. Like what I thought fairly early on in this process to hammer it out and really get it like good for 1.0 or whatever. Whenever they want to go full release or whatever it is. So my only concern with Arena is I feel like I think in general when they first started talking Arena, the consensus was it's bad for the game. And like you start talking
Hmm.
like okay,
Yep.
the
Yep.
amount of queues, the amount of dev time, all these things were like looking like we're kind of like negatively looking at Arena and like why we're doing this. And I still think there is that some of that perception, and I've kind of come across the RMT and cheating stuff that has my changed
Sure.
my perception a little bit. But like what I'm worried about is like the community and like the large creators. If it doesn't go smoothly the first like week or two, and there's already a perception of it was like, oh, is this a waste of time? Like, what
Hmm.
have we done? And multi-classing had like a similar effect. Like, ah, shit. Like,
Oh yeah, man.
we're just spinning our wheels. Like, this is a huge waste of time.
Yep.
Uh, I'm concerned because I want Arena to be given like obviously it's an online video game. People are gonna like just say a lot of bad things about it, whatever, if they feel that way. But I really hope that they're like give it a chance and try to like see it as a good thing for Dark and Darker to really make it a positive thing for the game. But I just have a weird feeling that whether it be balance issue or whatever, something is gonna like throw a wrench into that whole Arena thing. And within like 3 or 4 days, you're gonna have like endless amounts of large creators or streamers or people in the community just suggesting it's a joke or bad for the game. But I hope that's
Yeah.
not the case. I hope that's not the case. But I've had this weird impression that everyone just doesn't want Arena, or I
I
think it'd be
share your
awesome.
concern. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I love the idea purely if you ignore all of these other all of the other potential
Yeah.
negatives,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But right now I'm kind of in that skeptical camp where it's like
Mm-hmm.
do the cons outweigh the pros? And I'm trying to have a little bit of optimism and good faith towards
Yeah.
Iron Mace that they know these problems and that when they release it, they also understand that they are going to have very little latitude and grace from the general public,
Mm-hmm.
especially certain content creators are going to be willing to jump all over it and declare
Yeah.
it dead on arrival, just like they did with multi-classing. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
But if Iron Mace does handle this with white gloves and really thinks about all the angles and figures out a way to make it not only fun, but also not detract from the main game, if they somehow work it to incentivize people to stay in the main game so that our queue times aren't all going to shit, then man, if they can pull that off, I am excited. I think that'll
Yeah.
be a fantastic thing because you will draw new people to the game because of the arena. They will step into the dungeon and they never would have done that before. But just if that's what they need to do to go get their gear so that they can go fight in the arena, sure, they'll
Mm-hmm.
deal with the dungeon part just to get to the arena.
Yeah.
And we'll
Like.
win people over that way. Like the way, have you watched
Mm-hmm.
Summit at all?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Summit's been going hard. Honestly,
He's been going crazy.
crazy.
Like
Yeah. He reacted to my video.
like
Crazy, right?
that dude, yeah, it cracked me up. It was becoming a meme because like every day I'm tuning into his stream or watching his YouTube video and
Yeah.
he's just pissed, right? Like he's
Oh yeah.
he's
Summit.
rage
Classic
quitting.
Summit.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean it is his staple behavior, of course. But
Yeah.
each time he's like, "I'm done with this game," and then the next day he plays for 14 hours. This is the last time. Here it is, folks. It's gone after this. The next day he's back again, and it's over and over again. And now, like, you can just see him, like, he is enjoying the hell
Yeah,
out of the game. He is locked in. He's got buddies in there playing with him now. And it's like, that
well,
alone is such a good marketing piece for
yeah,
Iron Mace.
it's crazy.
Just
Like
think,
he's
if
even
Arena comes out and he gets into that, holy cow.
I really give him credit for like going to the YouTube community like before my video and all the crazy shit with it. But like he'd be watching build guides and people would be watching like the lore play Slayer
Yep.
Fighter. He'd be taking all the content in, like trying to get better at the game. Like I've been really impressed. Like I've been a Summit enjoyer for a long time. I used to have his old headset, like the SLV2s with the red. Anyway, you wouldn't know now, but I used to have that old headset for like 8 years.
Nice.
Um, because I used to watch a ton of Summit, and it's kind of funny because, like, I know like Spud Hunter made kind of a video about like Hunt Showdown and Summit, like kind of saying some real negative things about Hunt Showdown and how it was, maybe he could go tread a little more light or tread lightly and try not to like ruin a game in some way with his strong opinions and him just being
Yeah.
cranky. But that's
Right.
that's just classic Summit, you know. In my opinion, that's just like he doesn't give a shit. He's been doing this shit forever, and he's hugely entertaining. So I'm very surprised he's stuck it out this long. And honestly, it means that they're doing something good with Dark and Darker if that's the case.
Yeah.
So
I
I love
agree.
watching Summit. I wish I could watch him more. I wish I had more time for it. But from what I've witnessed, I didn't watch all of his reaction to my video, but I like what someone has to offer. He's a great guy. He's gonna
I'll
make the
need to go
game.
check that out. I did not know that he had done a
Yeah.
reaction. So,
Oh yeah, now I've been trying not to watch all of them because there is quite a rabbit hole of just like you're watching a lot of people say like really bad things about what you've done over and over and over again, which has happened in the past 2 days, and I've tried
mhm.
to limit a lot of that, but yeah, I mean I'm not going to convince everyone, so it's not like I can be upset that they're sharing their opinion about my video. Doesn't bother me at all, but it's like should I watch them all? Probably not good for my mental health. Like, let's just like let's just like,
In either
take this
direction
slowly.
too. You don't
Yeah.
just as Spuddy would say, you don't want to sit around sniffing your own farts all day either. So you don't want to
Yes,
be
exactly.
you
Yeah.
don't want to do that, you know.
It's entertaining at least. So, no, I think it's good. I'm glad someone stuck around.
No doubt. Well, what's next for you, man? I know you said you may be unplugging from the Matrix for a little bit, taking some time off, but
Yeah.
what's
Uh
next in content creation world upon your return? Do you think you'll keep rolling with the To Catch a Predator slash cheater series?
I think it'd be a good decision for me to do that. I'm not quite certain how any of this is gonna like where the cards are gonna lay at the end of all this and what the reaction will be from Iron Mace could determine a lot of this stuff and like I really don't want to make another like video on that subject at all. But I hope I never have to. But it's it's at the point where it's like okay, depending on how this goes for the next few weeks, like I may just have to like step back from the game for a while. That's fine. I don't mind doing that either, and seeing where this all kind of falls into place. And I've in my head internally, I've been like, I don't care if this goes on for months. Like, I'm not that invested in terms of like, okay, if this goes poorly for me, obviously, it could be damaging to everything I've done, sure, but I don't think we're gonna have a quick resolution either to all this stuff. So I'm not sure how long I want to like sit on it and just like sit in the back burner and watch it all. It really depends on what Iron Mace or whatever what final verdict we get. We may not get any verdict. It may just stay the way
Right.
it is, status quo,
Yep.
and I'll have to make a decision based on that after a week or two, and so be it. But I don't like. I'm not concerned. I'm just like reflecting on it all and wondering like I could have done things better. Could have done this better, sure. But overall, it's like it's done. Let's uh let's see where it goes. Let's see
Yeah.
where it goes, and hopefully, like I said, for the better. Hopefully, for the better of Dark and Darker. But there's
Well, if I
obviously going to
was
be
a
people in the community that don't like me now. But we'll see what that's
Yeah,
like.
you definitely drawn some dividing lines, but if I was a betting man, I would think that this will likely blow over in the short term, more than likely. And then maybe in the long term, like you said, it does take Iron Mace a little while if there is evidence, whether it's for Demo or anyone else that's been on the radar that's shown up in the To Catch a Cheater videos, um, past, present, or future. I think that that's always going to ruffle some feathers, and you know, I can almost see this maybe somehow playing out to the good of both of you guys. If it turns out there is nothing
Yeah.
malicious or untoward going on with him, you may have just made a great rival for when we have, guild wars down the road.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
guild versus the Demo guild may become one of the hottest Hatfield and McCoy
Hmm.
situations that we have in the game. And that could
Yeah.
be
Like
good for
anyone
both you
that
guys. Who knows?
watched like my video also watched all Demo stuff. So like, if it could very well work out in Demo's favor, and that would be on me. That would be my. I made
Yeah.
that decision knowing this was the risk I took. So he could gain way more from this than I could. Like the smart decision, and like everyone's been telling me, would have been waiting for Iron Mace to make a verdict on any of this stuff and communicating with them constantly or trying to get to the bottom of this. But like I said, I'm an impatient person, and I just want to get the ball rolling and start the conversation and see where how this all plays out. So it could go very badly for me, but it could also go very good for him. So
Yeah.
I like
True.
it's just a normal day on the internet, I guess, as far as content creation goes.
Yeah.
Yep.
No
Like
doubt
Summit
about
said,
it.
you get good at the game, these accusations fly in, just keep on going. Like that's kind of how it works. So
Yes, indeed.
crazy.
Well, hey man, I love what you do. I've been a big fan for a long time. I'm glad we finally got to do this. I love the Gathering Hall podcast. I think you and Ryan and Soapy have really, really good synergy and vibes on that stream. And I hope you guys keep
Yeah.
that up for a long, long time. I've very much enjoyed watching those. Um, I,
There,
I
there might there
I know the
might potentially be
challenges
a
you've
subject.
gone through and recording and uploading those things. So hopefully that's getting a little bit
Yeah.
smoother for you.
Yeah, I just like live stream them on YouTube now, but I think
Yeah,
I was
it's
talking to the guys today and it's like uh, obviously like Soapy and Ryan and not like this Joe is like part of that group now. We chat
mhm.
quite a bit and honestly best thing about it is like they're super honest, like they'll call me out on the mistakes that I've made over the past few days and I'm glad they have been. But during that, like for that podcast, like I've we're still kind of like hammering out the details. But I told him, I said, if you want to sub Joe in, if you guys never want to talk about the situation with me, um, I'm completely okay with that. Like I don't want any of the things I've done to like distract or to like determine how they manage their content. So I think they're all like really really good guys. They don't have to defend me. They don't have to like attack Demo. They don't have to do. They literally can make that decision. Don't like have a bias towards like supporting me or feeling like they need to support me in any way, shape, or form. And they honestly, they've called me out on a lot of shit in the past couple days. Like, like, why did like they're like kind of like inquisitively, like trying to like piece my brain together for me in a way and see some of these decisions. So I look forward if I'm not part of the podcast like next week or the week after or whatever. Not like this Joe will be a great guy to fill in because I think the stuff he's doing for Dark and Darker is like
He's
so
awesome.
good. So
He's
good. Yeah.
definitely on my radar. I got to reach out to that guy. I would love to
Yeah.
get him on one of these episodes. He's really really good. I've enjoyed his
Hmm.
content for a while now. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I look forward to either being a part of it again, watching it from the spectator's point of view. However it is, I'm glad we got that thing going. We'll see.
Whose idea was it? Who gets credit for that? Was that
Uh,
Soapy's idea?
well, I think like it was weird because when we started playing trios together, I never really played trios with other content creators before.
Mhm.
And we're like Ryan did a bit of duos and trios here and there. Like Soapy also, I think he played with you a few times. I remember he always
Mhm.
said like you're the first guy Soapy ever played with, from the community. And so it was kind of my first interaction with a lot of those guys too. And I was like, we just found ourselves yapping all the time. So I'm pretty sure I brought it up one night and I was like, I don't think Soapy or anyone else was live. I was like, why don't we, like everyone keeps asking, like, you guys should just turn this into a podcast because you never stop talking about the game. And like for me personally, like I don't really communicate with anyone in the community until I start like interacting with those guys.
Hmm.
So when I'm playing with them, when I'm doing trios with them, I'm like hammering them all with questions like, Ryan, like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, as a guy that makes these videos, or Soapy, like, as a guy that does the PvP stuff, like, and so I'm like, I was bouncing so many questions off them, and like, we were just yapping. And everyone's like, just turn this shit into a podcast because you guys are going. We're like, well, why don't we just play the game and yap, and that be our thing.
All right.
So
Well, the chat
I
gets
kind of
the credit
suggest
then. Chat gets the
chat
credit.
suggested it, and I said, you know, it'd be cool if we could like actually play with the devs. And the only way we do that is if our podcast is us playing the game. So um,
Someday.
I'm not sure the anti-cheat team will want to play with me anytime soon, but but maybe someday. Maybe someday I'll get there.
You'll get
We will
somebody over
arrive.
there at some point.
Yeah, true.
It's cool. I mean, for as much as we talk about the game, if we're gonna be at all honest, we're gonna have to cover both the good and the bad. We've all
Mhm.
given Iron Mace grief in one way, shape, or form, and despite all of that, I think they've been really receptive to most of the feedback. You can tell when, like, Jay, I know he is not held back. There have been several times where he's gone on some
Yeah.
pretty significant rants. Ken is definitely not holding back. Like,
Yeah. Ken's
they
great.
and SDF will show up in Jay's channel, right? Like, I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
they respect that. Those guys do not have thin skin.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
I think they understand that when people go on these rants and they're either just flat out complaining, or more often than not, they're actually giving constructive feedback, that they're doing that because they care. They give a shit
Yeah.
and they want to see the game
Yeah.
be better. And I really do credit Iron Mace with that. They've made a lot of mistakes, but they've done a lot right. And most importantly, they try to stay tapped into the community, and they do things that I
Yeah.
haven't seen other developers do. Maybe I'm just not paying attention, but I don't see the level of community engagement from any other studio like I do from Iron Mace. So, yeah, man,
Mhm.
it
Well,
could
like,
happen. You could have
yeah,
them in a
I
trio.
mean, I'm if you think about it, like I remember them saying a lot of people in like South Korea, they're not well liked
I
because of
know.
like
It's
the
so weird.
media's impression. So like honestly, sitting here right now, I kind of feel like Iron Mace during the lawsuit stuff. I am like, you know what I mean? Like I am leaving
Your
Nexon. Like
persona non
I've
grata.
yeah, I've put out this crazy attack on the content creators of this game and like all this slander and nonsense. And you know, now it's all being flushed out and we're in that lawsuit process and you know, some of these hopefully Iron Mace wins. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. And it could
Hopefully.
take years, just like the
It
lawsuit.
could
Could take
yeah,
years.
shit. Could. Hopefully not.
Well, man, this has been awesome. I'm so glad we got to do it. We need to do a follow up, maybe not in this format, but I know Soapy's been on HTL before. We need to
Yeah.
have, and Ryan has too. We need to
Oh
have you,
man.
if not all three of you guys, and we'll do a joint pod at some point. We'll have Joe on
Oh,
too.
I feel like over the
The amount
past
of
like
yapping, we're gonna
oof,
need to get about a
it would be
4 hour
I
block.
feel like I'm just imagining doing that like today or tomorrow and how spicy it could get.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
it'd be worth
yeah,
it, I think. But I'm not
it
afraid
would
to
be.
share what I've done.
Yeah, you know what? I'll float it past the guys and see maybe if they want to do that.
I'll
I
give
think
it
our
some
next
time. I'll give it
pod,
some time.
yeah, maybe next week. When are we planning to do our next one? Oh, so we have our anniversary edition coming up. It
Wow.
is our 1 year anniversary on I believe it's the 17th. Is it next Saturday? Is that right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that might be it. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
would be Saturday. Yeah.
we should have another pod coming up. It might not be our anniversary edition, but maybe the one after that. We'll try to get you guys on.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to like send any weird vibes that got your guys' way either. So you guys make a decision based on like what's good for your content and your channel, and we can always figure this shit out whenever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The one thing that's for sure is we need to do a joint pod with the six of us,
yeah,
or
yeah.
seven if it's
Eventually, yeah.
Joe. Whenever that happens, it needs to
Sure,
happen for sure.
I'm okay with that.
All right. Well, thanks
It'll be
again,
fun.
Wilson.
No problem. Thank you, Arcane.